Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about a couple of different terms that you see out there, expressions people use, labels they use, things you see on t-shirts talking about strong is the new skinny and functional fitness. So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, work on scaling up my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about this, because this is something I've been talking about for a little while, but there is a big divide that I've noticed in the fitness world. It's a big divide happening, and there actually is even a element of classism involved. And I think the direction the fitness world is going is towards this concept of functional fitness. And yes, I know that's a vaguely defined term, and you could argue that it has no real meaning. But people have an idea of what it means. In other words, they want to be strong, balanced, agile, mobile, fast, all these things. That's what they mean by fit now. And the thing is, I've visited enough different gyms in a couple of different countries while living in the UK. I lived in the United Kingdom when I started this channel. I've moved back to Texas. And because I live in such a diverse metropolitan area, and I have a couple of big nationwide chain gym memberships, so I can kind of rotate through several different franchise gyms because I have, nationwide memberships. I've been able to travel to different gyms and observe patterns. And things I've noticed is that, yes, you have this whole online fitness world that still cares about primarily the aesthetics thing entirely, like bodybuilding and bro type training. And I've noticed that when you go to gyms that are in lower socioeconomic areas, meaning they're not particularly affluent. In other words, the average person living near there, it makes a less than a six-figure income. You still see that trend, but when you go to slightly more affluent areas, you see a lot of CrossFit boxes. You go into any of these gyms, and even the box gyms, there will be Olympic lifting platforms, tons of squat racks. In other words, when you go to poorer areas, the same branches of commercial gyms will be a bunch of cables and machines. When you go to the areas where people have actual money, you will notice that there's not as many cables and machines. They're there and people use them, but there's a much larger focus on Olympic lifts, free weights, kettlebells, all that stuff, Olympic lifting platforms, people doing squats and deadlifts. And tons of women doing squats and deadlifts. Wearing shirts that say things like strong is the new skinny. Or talking about squatting. Or all of these things on their t-shirts while they're training. And you'll notice there's a massive number of CrossFit gyms, which makes sense because CrossFit gyms usually run well over $100 a month for gym memberships. And that's the difference we are seeing, is that it is now considered in the upper echelons of our society, upper middle class, upper class, things like that, for people to have functional strength, not just to come in and do a bunch of curls. And it's a big difference I've noticed, and it's a positive trend. But, it's unfortunate that this hasn't spread to other areas, because of the truth of the matter is, a lot of the health problems that we suffer could be fixed by people doing more barbell squats. Truth be told, and it is kind of ironic because it actually costs less to equip gyms with free weights than it does with machines and cable stations. But it is a definite pattern I've noticed, and I think a big part of it has to do, again, with the trend that CrossFit started, but also because people who can't afford trainers, who don't do their own research, are going to shy away from the big barbell movements. They're going to shy away from it. To some extent, it seems like that places that can hire trainers do that. And I've talked to enough trainers in these gyms in these upper class areas where the trainers themselves say, yeah, that's our culture in our gym now. We have all of our clients squat. That's what all the trainers here do, because we have access to all this stuff. And these are clients who pay good money. And because these are now clients who are paying a lot of money, they can afford to go get any trainer they want. We want them to get their results. We don't have them come and sit on a Bosu ball and do curls, because if they don't get the results they want, they're going to go somewhere else. They're going to hire a different trainer. So we make sure they squat. We teach them to squat. We teach them to deadlift. We teach them to overhead press. But I see in commercial gyms, I see people coming in and doing snatches, power cleans, deadlifts, squats, all these things on their own also. And a large number of women do it, and that's a big difference. Big difference. And that's changing the culture of training in a lot of ways. And I think that's the direction we're going to see stuff go. And it's so interesting when you go look at the different fitness YouTube channels, because when I first came onto YouTube, it seemed like it was dominated purely by the bodybuilders and the bro culture. And I did have to cater to some of that a little bit, even though I'm not really into it. It's not my thing. I catered to it a bit because there seemed to be an audience for that of people who wanted to get into training. But then when you go look even at YouTube now, there's a stark contrast there. You have channels that are dedicated purely to the bodybuilding and aesthetics thing, and they really do. Some of them believe, oh yeah, I do teach some strength stuff, so they realize they really don't. Because then you go to these other channels, and there are channels that are dedicated towards more functional type strength, and you'd be shocked at how strong a lot of the people are on these. Or there's entire CrossFit dominated channels that have, well over 100,000 or several 100,000 subscribers. So there's a big difference there. And it's interesting because you see even Jeff Cavalier trying to play to both sides a little bit also. And I'm not saying try, he is successfully doing so. He's one of the most successful fitness YouTubers out there. But he does talk, and he looks the part, and he does a fair amount of a bodybuilder and bro training himself. He really does, but then he gives a lot of lip service to the functional elements of it and the athletic elements of it. But it's interesting that we have such a stark contrast between these two groups, and we have this big emergence of what people are terming functional training, and people want to be strong and fit and not just look the part. They want to look the part, but they want to be the part also. And it's interesting that we see that, because in a way, the training world and even the fitness world has come full circle. Because there was a time when even the best bodybuilders in the world believed in doing the classic lifts and the power lifts. That they believed that the key to looking good was to be all around strong. To get really strong at all these basic barbell exercises, and then of course they did their curls and other stuff with it. But they believed that form would follow function. Form would follow function, and they all actually did the classic lifts. And it was a big component of what they did. But keep in mind, machines didn't really exist back then. So they weren't an option to the same extent anyways. And we saw Joe Weider and Arthur Jones really push a lot of that in. But I think between CrossFit and Starting Strength, Starting Strength has sold over 500,000 copies of actual book sales, not just people who are pirating and stealing it, because there's probably millions of those, but 500,000 book sales. Hundreds of thousands of people have run that program, and it pushes to that to a larger extent also. But we're seeing this shift back over to the idea that goes all the way back to the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, that pro bodybuilding pushed away from, and then influenced entire generations of young men to pursue these purely aesthetic-oriented goals, and further away from the idea that you could be big without being strong. That we saw it push to the extremes to the point to where now people really don't care about it, but now we are seeing it come around full circle back to those older ideas that form should follow function. Not that you should just look the part and not be able to perform. And again, it's interesting how we're seeing this shift over. And we're seeing it even go to the point to where you're seeing guys even on YouTube now who have come pretty much from physique-type backgrounds are going in and competing in powerlifting meets. A lot of them have started doing that. We're starting to see more hybrid athletes now. Right? Same thing we discussed yesterday with people like Jamie Lewis doing sports crossovers, becoming a champion. Same thing with Stephanie Cohen. Perfect example. She still does two strength sports, but comes from a soccer background. We're seeing more and more of that, of people realizing that strength itself and muscularity is part of a more all-encompassing fitness, and that purely looking the part isn't what it's all about. Being able to perform in a wide variety of endeavors is part of fitness. And at the end of the day, if you're strong, all around strong, because you are really good at 6 or 7 big different exercises, and you do a lot of conditioning work, And if you're light enough to compete in a weight class, you're probably going to be reasonably lean. So ultimately, people end up looking the part the more athletic they are, anyways. Rather than people saying, hey, I want to just look the part, and they train towards that, they train towards all these other goals, and at the end of the day, they just end up looking really athletic. And that look is coming more in vogue again. That is taking a more dominant appreciation in mainstream culture also, and that's what people need to remember. People get caught up in this whole bodybuilding subculture, and they think that this is what an attractive physique is supposed to look like, and the reality is looking like an athlete, like a lot of even these top CrossFit people are looking like some of the top boxers and MMA fighters and swimmers and everyone else. These physiques are the attractive body to the average person, and it's not this concept that people have that, oh, they just are, because their average person is fat and out of shape, they're attracted to fat, out of shape people. No, that's not true at all. It's not actually true. People find athletic physiques to be attractive because they're markers of being healthy. Because being healthy is where we get our physical attractiveness from. And that's been known through every study ever done, that the healthier a person looks, that there are different markers that we intrinsically see as more attractive in other people, and it has to do with their overall health. All right, that is important. That's why things like facial symmetry and things actually matter. They're actually markers sometimes of how good your overall genetic profile is in certain areas. So again, health really is sexy and attractive to people. And that's interesting because, again, the grotesque bodybuilder or extreme bodybuilder physique isn't what people look at. They want people to look like an athlete, and it has come back into full mainstream acceptance. And it's something that's more realistically attainable for people. And that's really kind of the thing that we need to push. This whole idea of being fit and obtainably fit through hard work is, I think, something that's making fitness become more popular. It's making it more popular. There are more gyms and more people working out than ever before. And it's no longer just the, hey, they go join the gym and do the machines like most people have been doing for a while. We're seeing barbells and kettlebells and GPP and squats becoming more popular than they have ever been before, as far as sheer number of people who go and do them regularly. And I think it's a good thing, and I think it's going to keep pushing forward that direction, and I really hope that it does. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.